My name is Juliana Frederick-James and I'm Chair of the Oxleas CME Staff Network, and I'm here to interview the Chairman of Oxleas NHS Foundation Trust, Andy Trotter. Andy, you've been chair here at Oxleas for about a year now, and I remember you told us this was all brand new to you when you came. What do you feel is the role of the chair and the board in relation to equality in the workplace?
Well, the role of the chair is very much to hold the executives to account, and of course as chair of the Council of Governors my role is to hold the non-execs to account, so it's an interesting role as chair, and I'd say it's taken me a few months to get to grips with the organisation and with the NHS, but I've been very impressed with what I've seen. In my role as chair, I think a lot of it is not only doing those jobs I've described, the holding to account, but it's getting to know people.
Because you've come from organisations, for example, the 1999 Macpherson that kind of talked about institutional racism, what do you think, what are you going to be taking forwards from those experiences of where you've been? Because obviously you've worked places where people have been challenged around equality for some time.
Well, having spent many years in the police and been through some searingly difficult episodes, I spent many days at the Macpherson inquiry, and one of my jobs was to deal with police officers after the event, to suspend them, commence disciplinary proceedings against various people, and I saw the huge damage that the conduct of the police had caused. And I also worked in Greenwich in the days after the murder of Stephen Lawrence. I took over command of Plumstead Police Station in just the weeks after the murder, and I saw firsthand the impact on the local communities there, not only around Stephen's murder, but around a series of racial attacks that had occurred before that, and their lack of faith in the police ability to deal with it. And it was a really profound mistrust. And as you know, Greenwich Borough is very mixed. There's a lot of ethnic minorities, from the Somalis, the Chinese, the Vietnamese, as well as African, Caribbean and South Asian populations. And one of the things I learned was, you've got to work with those communities. You've got to listen. You've got to take an awful lot of criticism as well and hear what people are saying to you. But what I did learn is you've got to really throw yourself into this. You've got to really believe it, listen to people, take criticism when it hurts. So even when you think that criticism sometimes is unfounded, because people are angry, they hurt. And also not only externally, but internally. I did a lot of work with the Black Police Association, the Gay Police Association and others. And I was quite proud of the fact that two of my British Transport Police officers were successively the chairs of the Black Police Association for Great Britain. What we have got here is an amazing mix, haven't we? I said to my wife when I came to first go to see Oxleas, it's 20 miles up the road from where I live in Kent, and we have the rainbow of the world here at Oxleas, and it's a wonderful thing to have people from all over the world working in this organisation, and long may it continue as well.
Are there examples of stuff that you've done before that you feel will be helpful for Oxleas and the NHS generally, which feels a little bit like it's still embryonic in trying to make any changes?
I'm cautious about saying that, because I came from an organisation that had a long, long way to go, and the NHS has always been a lot more diverse in many respects. And I'm very cautious of someone, again, in my position as chair, as someone of my age and background, sort of telling others what the issues might be. I'm more in listening mode, to be frank, and rather hear what people have got to say and see what we can do. Again, with all the caveats that I've just said, I detect what I think is a good atmosphere, healthy atmosphere. I like the way people speak out. I like the way people here are direct. They're friendly, very friendly. And I think real quality at every level, but people speak straight, and I like that. We don't seem to be very hierarchical. We don't stand on ceremony. People bang on my door, come and talk to me. I want them to do that.
You're regularly seen out and about visiting staff and at different services, and you recognise that we actually are quite diverse as a staff team. What do you sense in terms of equality is happening around our services? Do you get a sense that equality is actually happening, or diversity is being recognised and valued?
I think it's self-evident by the fact we've got such a diverse workforce. We've got a lot here, but we also know that that workforce is disproportionately represented in different parts of the organisation. You only got to look at the sort of management statistics against the front line. When you go onto a ward on the front line, it can look, a lot of, very frequently, almost all minority ethnic staff in some places, which is, I think, is a brilliant thing. But you can also come up here and see a different mix again. Now that might be just a function of when people joined, the sort of specialisms they've gone into. But one of the things I have really looked at is what can I influence, and I can certainly influence appointments to the board on merit, absolutely on merit. So I think there is something about setting the example. There's something about looking at the makeup of boards, because across the country they are disproportionately male, disproportionately white, which is a function of the age of people when they came into their careers. But I think we can be pump primers, set the example, and encourage people to come forward. Because it's not only morally right, it's actually good for business, because you're fishing in a much bigger pool. So we've got to really look inside the organisation. So what have we got? Who can we help to identify? And when I go around talking to people, I talk to these ward managers and modern matrons and all HCAs, trying to talk to everybody. I often think, wow, there's some really, really good people here. And whether they want to go up into senior management is a different matter, because they're probably very good at what they do. But I would really like to see more clinicians come through, more people from a variety of different backgrounds, to reflect not only our workforce, but the people we provide the services to. And that is good, I think, in every way.
I'm really heartened that you mentioned that there were women that you've appointed, when you consider that 80% of the people that work for this organisation are women. And yet women are not necessarily as well represented as they could be. So it's good to know that we're kind of thinking about, not just, because diversity is everybody, the reality is it is all of us. But it's really good to know that women are in there as well.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt.
Can you give us an example of something that's impressed you in relation to equality here?
That's a very good question, actually. I think what has impressed me, as I said before, actually, is around people's directness, that sort of candour, that people will talk about things, people will talk about what's happened to them. When people have been insulted or assaulted by patients, and talked about the impact that's had on them, and talk about what we do about that, particularly when people are suffering from mental illness, and how do we handle that? Equally, how do we protect and defend our staff who've got to come to work in very difficult circumstances, and talking to senior clinicians about they build in to the care plan about patients' behaviour and how we can influence that behaviour given all their other challenges. But we can't accept the fact that our staff be assaulted or insulted.
I mean, I think there are staff who will say to you that some of this stuff has got nothing to do with money. And it's about how we make it clear to people what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. So if we can set some ground rules and put them up on every wall that says, please don't be rude to people. Lots of people will not be rude in the community, but feel they can get away with it on our wards. And I think it's really good that at the moment we are looking at that really seriously and looking at what steps we can take. So, I mean, I think the fact that you all say that your doors are open up here, no one believes you because you're all the way up here. We all live somewhere else. But I can testify that the doors are open. If people really want to ask something or have got something to say, they can just take that opportunity, send you all an email. You will respond if you get it. So.
Yes, and I've got, people have sent me emails or been out to see them. You can't solve every problem. And some of it is around not understanding how we work with the CCGs, how we work with the local authorities, that we can't just say we need 10 more beds and just do that. But within our capacity and ability and to influence others, we should be forever trying to look for the best way of doing this and constantly trying to improve. That's tough. People have got hard jobs, they work long hours in difficult circumstances. But I still see when I go around that drive and determination, which just shines through to me. I've spoken to staff who've been through some real traumas, and what impresses me is that constantly their desire to make things better, to improve and get it right. And I think it's a wonderful example of the human spirit. And whenever I speak to people about the NHS from the outside, I say, you want to come and see the people who work at Oxleas. I think they're pretty special. I can't speak the rest of the NHS. This is the only bit I know. I think they're pretty special. I think we should value them and look after them.
I agree. There's a passion here. People have a real passion for what they do. And I think it's reflected in our leadership too. So thank you very much for that today.
Wow, my pleasure. Thank you.